Hi everyone, my name is Amanda and today I wanted to talk about how to find and apply to craft fairs and markets. And since you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you have already decided to try your hand at them, or maybe you're just curious about how they work. So today we're going to start with the process. Choosing a market is extremely important, but first you're going to want to see what kind of markets are even offered in your area. Start with what you know, maybe some that you've even been to or ones that you have heard about before, and I would start a list. Just start listing all of those. So next, I used this ancient technology called Facebook, and I joined a vendor group about markets that were in my area. I went into that group and I just went backwards in time and just looked at all of the markets that they had previously advertised. I looked at their events and I just added those markets to my list. I also pay attention to other markets that small business owners in my area are doing, and I add them to the list. So after you have that list, you're going to want to narrow down the markets that would be the best fit for you. So to do this, I recommend thinking about your niche. So if you have been online in the small business circles, I feel like people talk about this all the time. What is your niche? So you might have already established what that is, or if you haven't, I just recommend thinking about what kinds of markets do you think your customers would expect to find your products at. So for example, I make handmade reusable fabric gift bags. So if there was like a plant outdoor market, while people might be interested in my bags, I feel like they're probably less likely to buy those bags at a plant market, if that makes sense, because it just doesn't, they don't mesh, it doesn't make sense. So focus on the events that you think that people would expect to find your products at. So I really focus on craft fairs, for example. And if there is a market that you have considered doing and you know someone else who has done that market, go ahead and ask them how it went. I did that with someone. They were doing the exact market that I felt like online a lot of people were talking about, and she actually told me that that market was really slow, so I crossed it off my list for now. And then I strongly recommend doing research about different fairs that you are interested in. Actually, you have to do this. I am making you do this. It is that important. So once you've settled on a place that you are interested in applying to, I recommend going to Facebook, and if they have an event page from that year or from the previous year, look at how many people are interested in that event and how many people said that they were going to that event, because that'll just give you kind of a rough estimate of how popular this event is, for example. And really, I made a decision recently to not do any fairs that don't have an event page. Why? Well, there are a couple of reasons. One is because I want to see how many people went or were interested in that event. I really want to know if it's worth putting my time into and my money as well, because most fairs that I have seen, you do have to pay to be a part of it. And then two, scammers are everywhere. So I want to make sure that where I'm sending my money, this event is actually happening. In that vendors group that I mentioned earlier, I see it all the time where the person who's hosting the event says, hey, be aware of this person, like this is not me, pay me, not that person. Another thing to note when you're researching these markets is it inside, is it outside? I personally do not do outdoor markets, because weather, I just feel like I don't like weather. Is either too hot or it's too cold. And in Kansas, which is where I live, you have to worry about wind because it is so flat here. That wind just is a beast. basically. And a lot of outdoor markets will have you have tents, or maybe you just decide you want a tent yourself. I've been at events outside where I've had to like hang on to a tent to make sure that it didn't blow away. Things like that. I just don't want to mess with it. And my products are so light, like this is one of them. I just feel like these are so light that yes, I could put rocks inside of it, but I just feel like it's not worth it. And I don't want to have to buy a tent, so at least for right now, I have just crossed outdoor markets off my list. And you don't have to do that, but for me, that's just a decision that I made. So now that you have selected a market, it is time to apply. I will preface this by saying that most of the markets that I have done, it's really a first come, first served basis. They aren't juried shows. So if you're looking for a video talking about the competitive landscape of craft fairs and markets, I'm sure there's a video for that, but that isn't this video because that just hasn't been my experience, at least yet. So back for the applications, I would make note of what the market is going to supply. So power, do they supply it? For the most part, I have seen where if they supply it, you have to pay for it. Do they have Wi-Fi? You might think that that would not be a very big issue, but what I didn't realize is I have a Square reader that connects through Wi-Fi. So luckily I was able to use data at my very first show, but I know that my neighbor had been having an issue with it all day. So it was a little worrisome for a minute. And then the layout, what space do they actually provide you, and is that enough space? So my first show, it was 10 by 10. My next show was an 8 by 10, but I didn't know if it would be 8 by 10, like 10 feet wide, if it would be 10 feet deep. So I just pretended like it was an 8 by 8 space just so I didn't come and get surprised, basically. And then the following show was an 8 by 8. I just got into another show where I did have to apply, and it is also an 8 by 8. So that's just something to consider. But if you know you need a ton of space, I've also seen people rent out a couple or a few booths. I don't need that much space, but I mean, good for them. So once you have read through all of the details and you know all the things, it's time to apply. So I have a folder online that has just all of my resources from all of the fairs that I have done before. So something I just started was I started an Excel sheet that lists questions and answers to things that I typically see on those market applications. For example, a description of what I sell, product photos that I have used, etc. Work smarter, not harder. If you have to mail something in, I recommend you scan the sheet of paper that you have to mail in and save that in your folder so that you can refer back to it later. If you're submitting an online form, like a Google document, a Google form, that's what it's called. You can pretend like you're printing it, and then you can, you know, where like the printer drop down is, there should be a drop down that says PDF, and you can save that as a PDF, save it into your folder, so you're not wondering, oh no, what did I submit? Because that has saved me sometimes because they don't send you your answers. And then lastly, I recommend that you keep all of your correspondences in a folder so you can also refer back to it later. Next tip is getting organized for the market. So now that you have applied for the market, you've been accepted, you need to crank some stuff out so you can sell them. So take a look at your current inventory and decide how much more you want to make in the time you have available in between now and when the market is happening. So I really like using ClickUp. I do use the free version and it seems to work pretty well for me, but I just like putting in, I'm going to make this product this day, that product that day. And what I like to do in addition is, for example, I am doing a women's market here in a few weeks, which I'm really excited for. So I was trying to think about what kind of products might do best in this environment basically. So I pulled out all of my fabric that I have prepped and I just put it all together, and these are the things that I want to make in the time that I have left. And pretty sure every single time I have gotten off where I've been super ambitious. I'm like, I'm gonna make like 4 bags a day on the weekend, and then, you know, just life happens. But I feel like as long as I have thought through things, it just makes me feel better, if that makes sense. The age-old question, how much should I bring? How much inventory should I bring? Well, you know, I don't really know. I got really freaked out when I was just researching on how much to bring to my first show, because most of the advice that I saw online was like, bring everything. And I did not have a ton to make, and my product is pretty time intensive. I mean, it takes a couple of hours per bag, and I know that's much faster than some other things, but I was just trying to do what I can. So it looks like I actually ended up with 36. So I brought 36 items. How much did I sell? In person I sold 8, and then a bonus was I do work full-time, and someone that I'm friends with online but also works at my place of employment, they bought 4 that same evening. So total I sold 12. I feel like that's okay, especially for the first time venture. So I would just say don't get too in your head about I don't have enough or whatever. I would just view the first market as an experiment, and if you sell out, go you. That's amazing. My parents are big supporters of me, and they always tell me, like, you have a website, so if you happen to sell out, you should be like, hey, there's more online. And it's true. I just settled on I would rather make as many bags as I can rather than not have enough. So that's kind of the mindset that I had, but I ended with 36 to take to that first one, and it worked out. My last tip is creating a social media plan. Some markets will require you to do this anyway. I generally see that as a good sign. I think it's great if they require you to post about it, because if you have even like 10 vendors, if they're all posting about it and that market is also posting, that's a lot of advertising. Some things that you could post about is like your works in progress, like, hey, come find this completed gift bag at this fair on this date, or do you have a special deal? That's something one of my friends gave me an idea about. Is this a good time for your customers to meet you? And then you can also reshare what the host is sharing as well. If you're like, I want to share something, I don't know what to share today, you can just reshare that. You can also share the event page, also say that you're going on that event page and share it. And then also post why you're doing this market. So I thought that was a great idea from the market that I'm doing later this month. So it's called a women's empowerment market. So I'm just excited to be around like fellow women makers. This is a very mission-driven market, so if it's something like that, definitely like share why this market drew you in, basically. Also, if you have an email list, which you should have an email list, I hear that all the time, tell them that you're going to this. I've gotten some people to sign up for my email list in person, even if they haven't sold bags, or like, yeah, add me to that. So that could be a good way for me to see them again. I would make sure that you are following the organization online as well. You could blog about the event. Do you have a blog? I haven't blogged at all, but I'm thinking about it, sure. And if you have a website, it's a great idea to put where you're going to be at on like an events page so people know, oh, okay, this is coming up, because you never know when people are going to click on your website and click through all the different links. I love doing that. I just think it's fun. So hopefully this gave you some things to think about. I'm really excited to do this market. I love markets. I am an introvert. I can be very shy, but I just feel like there's something about doing markets that just makes it feel like they're super high energy. I do plan events for a living. I help other people plan events for a living. So I love just like making my plan, waking up early. I don't love that, but just thinking about all the things that could happen that day at the market. So I hope that you learned some things with this video, and I'm excited to make more and take you along to this women's market later on this month. Bye.